Hello and welcome to Sports News Africa, the home of Africa's sporting conversation. Well, to get more on the latest developments, we can now speak to the cricket correspondent Zahir Adams, who joins us from Cape Town. Zahir, can you give us a brief background to how the story came about?
I think at the moment, South Africa, we're searching for reasons for the defeat, and obviously the selection of Vernon Philander, considering he was injured, coming into the side for a major game like that, that's going to spark questions. It's going to, people are upset, people are looking for answers, and that is something that quotas and transformation is never far from a buzzword in South Africa. It's always close to people's hearts, and that's basically the way it's come to the fore.
Is there any evidence to support the allegations of interference of team selection from the governing body?
At this point, nothing has surfaced as yet. I think in the past there have been instances where this has happened, and that has fueled the speculation. That has basically given people the conspiracy theorists, as we like to call them, to find the reason why this has happened, and what is particularly the reasons for the selection. Vernon Philander, he is an accomplished test bowler. He's been the #1 test bowler in the world before. So it's not like his position in the team should be questioned at any point. The fact that he was the #1 bowler going into the series until he got injured during the World Cup. So in terms of the actual quality of the player, that cannot be debated. In terms of the selection, whether it was the right call at the right time, that possibly is the query. Unfortunately, and at this point in time, nothing has shown us that he was not a cricketing choice.
And what response has there been from Cricket South Africa?
I actually did an interview with the convener of selectors the night after the semi-final, and he basically explained it. Andrew Hudson, he explained it in terms of the fact that Vernon Philander has done well for South Africa previously. He said that the South African team were looking for extra depth in their batting lineup as well, as Vernon Philander is an all-rounder. He explained in terms of Philander's credibility within New Zealand, his statistics within New Zealand, the fact that he's done fairly well in New Zealand, and that possibly gave him the edge over someone like Kyle Abbott. So that's been the official response. The minister has also denounced anything that he was involved. The Minister of Sport, Cricket South Africa, Harun Logar, he's also stated the fact that he never gets involved in selection. So officially, that is what we have at the moment, and everything else is basically people trying to look for different answers for the defeat.
Zahir, is the alleged controversy said to have had any impact on South Africa's dramatic World Cup semi-final defeat to New Zealand?
I think if you watch that game, there was so much drama in that particular match that it went to and fro, and a game that seesawed and basically gripped our imagination for the entire 99.4 balls of the contest. So to point at one particular selection for South Africa's defeat, I think that would be a bit foolhardy. I think that would be irresponsible to state that that's the fact. The fact that Vernon Philander was actually one of the better bowlers for South Africa on the day. He conceded, if I'm not mistaken, just under 6.2 runs per over compared to someone like Dale Steyn, who's the world's #1 bowler, and conceded close on 8 runs to the over. So to say that particular selection was the reason for the defeat, I'd beg to differ on that.
So what happens next, and will this affect the quota system?
We live in South Africa. It's a part and parcel of our society that we have to address the imbalances of the past. In terms of whether sport and politics are aligned, that is something that's the eternal debate. In South Africa, that is a given. That is something that will always, not always, but it's something that is currently under the microscope. Cricket South Africa have implemented new quotas for the domestic cricket next year, the domestic franchise competitions, and that is something that Cricket South Africa are very passionate about. It's something that they believe that it's good for cricket in the country and for the sport in general as for the nation. So how we go forward and how we manage it, that is the complex task. But it is part of South African cricket, yes.
Zahir, thank you for speaking to Sports News Africa. Moving on to football now, and the Guinea Football Federation looks set to name former France international Luis Fernandez as their new coach. The post was vacated by another Frenchman, Michel Dussier, who quit after Guinea's quarter-final exit from the 2015 Africa Cup of Nations.
Guinea's Football Federation's on the verge of appointing former France international Luis Fernandez as coach of Guinea. He'll replace compatriot Michael Dussier. Federation Chief Ibrahim Barry confirmed talks with Fernandez had taken place with the country's sports minister. Guinea have been looking for a replacement since Dussier quit following their quarter-final exit from the 2015 Africa Cup of Nations.
There's a willingness on the part of Guinea. When there's a will, then for me, there's an opening, a discussion. For now, there is no agreement, but there is from both sides the willingness for a deal. That is why I'm happy to come, make an assessment and discuss. It is important when we want to engage in an adventure, when we want to take responsibility for a team.
Spanish-born Fernandez won 60 caps as a midfielder for France, winning the 1984 European Championships title. He had an unsuccessful spell coaching Israel's national team between 2010 and 2011. Fernandez's experience at club level includes a spell at French side Paris Saint-Germain and Spanish outfits Athletic Bilbao, Espanyol and Real Betis.
The role of manager is totally different to that of a club coach. Being manager means that you work differently, see differently. It means not being taken hostage. When you're a manager, you must have some freedoms. When you work in a country, you're not there all the time. When you can distance yourself a bit and do a little, do differently, I think it's much better.
Dussier, 55, coached Guinea since 2010, with his successor having the task of qualifying the team for the 2017 Africa Cup of Nations and the 2018 World Cup.
A number of African sides were also involved in international friendlies on Monday. In contrast to their midweek victory over Mali when Gabon won 4-3, the Panthers' clash with Belarus and Turkey ended in a goalless draw. Burkina Faso ran out 2-1 winners over Morocco. And Cameroon's indomitable Lions came from 2 goals down to snatch a 3-2 victory over Thailand in Bangkok. Ethiopia's athletes returned home from the World Cross Country Championships in Guiyang, China, to a hero's welcome in Addis Ababa. The country's athletes dominated in Guiyang, filling 5 of the top 10 spots.
The Ethiopian junior athletics team on Monday, March 30th, was welcomed home and given a hero's welcome after their efforts at the World Cross Country Championships. The junior team made it an all-Ethiopian affair on Saturday, March 28th. In the 12-kilometer cross country, as young athletes Yasin Haji and Letesenbet Gide bagged gold in both the men's and the women's junior cross country races. 19-year-old Haji unleashed a sprint finish to beat the Kenyan duo of Geoffrey Koril and Alfred Ngeno. On Monday, Haji remembered the race.
I am very excited and happy to win the gold medal. The men's 12,000-kilometer race was a very tough competition, and we competed with tough athletes. So winning this competition and getting what I had hoped for makes me happy.
Ethiopian athlete Letesenbet Gide beat a pack of Kenyan athletes to clinch the gold medal. Calm was her greatest advantage, she said. When we left here, we were trained to be calm and not worried about the results. I told myself I will give it my best and try to win or at least get experience of participation. But I was happy to win gold. Ethiopia beat Kenya by a tiny margin overall, with the two tied in the number of points, but Ethiopia leading slightly in the times posted.
This time also just we dominate, of course, World Cross Country Championship, and from 8 gold medals, and just we took 5 gold medals, and at the same time just we had 3 silver and 3 bronze. And so in this case, and we achieved our goal.
In the senior race, Kenya won the men's and Ethiopia the women's races.
Staying with basketball, and the Ugandan League has been boosted by a series of coaching clinics with former NBA coach Michael Scholl. Scholl has been running 2-day intensive sessions in Uganda as universities gear up for the upcoming Zuku Universities Basketball League.
Coaches in Uganda have had a 2-day intensive training session with overseas coaches at the start of the country's University Basketball League season. American basketball coach Michael Scholl journeyed to train the Ugandan coaches after the just concluded Kenya University League. The Kampala clinic, sponsored by Zuku in partnership with Miles & Associates International, hopes to groom coaches to develop the game as it becomes increasingly popular in Uganda.
Basketball has evolved a lot. To a time when we never had trained coaches, to a time now when we have a number of coaches who are instructing people from elementary levels, that's schools, colleges and universities. So, which means now that those are places where basketballers are being groomed to come and play at competitive levels. The reason why you see that organizations like Zouk and the rest have come in even to come and sponsor, formerly, which wasn't really the case as far as basketball was concerned.
The training concentrated on offensive and defensive concepts along with individualized instruction.
As a player, trying to be a coach too, I've learned a lot. I've learned basics on how to defend, how to play with my teammates, especially during offense. Yeah, I think I've learned a lot.
Scholl has worked with basketball programs in the U.S. Virgin Islands at the junior college level in Northern California with the South African national and under-20 teams and with Senegal's men's national team. Scholl believes Uganda has what it takes to dominate the basketball arena in East Africa.
But I think there's so much potential here in Uganda, and I think Uganda, to me, after seeing where the rest of the region is, and I'm a little biased after, being adopted in Uganda in 2006, but I really think that Uganda has the most potential because it's a smaller place. You can get control of it a lot easier, and you can develop your best players, I think, a little bit easier.
Scholl also believes that the game needs to become more professional.
Basketball players in Africa deserve to be having an outlet where they can earn a living and make money playing the game of basketball, coaching the game of basketball, being administrators in the sport of basketball. Because everywhere else in the world, they're making money with the game of basketball. In the United States, in South America, in Europe, in China, in Asia, in Oceania, in Fiji, in Australia. Why is it that African nations with all this wealth of talent are not doing the same thing with our sport?
Scholl conducted a similar training last year in Kenya. Over 30 coaches from Kenya benefited from the program.
And finally, motocross continues to grow in popularity in Uganda. With 2 of the country's racetracks undergoing redevelopment, the sport is attracting a lot of attention from local and international riders in the East African nation.
Support for motorsports in Uganda has seen the sector grow exponentially. One sport that is attracting more and more attention is motocross. Upgrades to racetracks in Garuga and Busika near the capital Kampala to international standards has led to an increase in competition and in general use of the tracks. And international riders have been helping build Ugandan riders' skill levels.
The sport is growing at a very fast rate. If you look about 3 years ago, we had 1 track and very few riders. Now we have 2 tracks with the international standards, Busika and Garuga. This already shows how fast we're growing. We also have trainers coming about every 2 months to train our riders. The federation is paying for these trainings, so it shows that the sport is gaining some importance, and it looks like it has a bright future thanks to all the young riders you see. All these kids, they're the future of the sport, and we see more and more of them, so it's looking bright.
Jürgen Cooper is a former German motocross champion who has taken a lot of interest in Ugandan motorsport, said that regular training sessions has led to rapid improvements.
Riders are very fast, and especially Maxime. And Maxime come to Europe and have a little bit training with me together in my school. But now I come many times here and I make the practice because the training with the riders from the championship in Uganda, and now I see the riders go very good in the last races. Yeah.
But the growth of the sport has its fair share of challenges. Motocross RX1 champion Maxime states that the huge income gap between riders in the Ugandan team leads to a disconnect.
One of the first challenges I face is to bring back the team as one unit, because I feel like the team had different groups. Maybe you can say the more fortunate ones and the less fortunate, like the ones who are less financially good. So I want to remove this gap, because we are one team, and things like that affect the performance of the team and affect our sport, the rate at which we're growing.
Cooper also believes that more tracks are needed so that riders don't become used to one or two tracks and can still be competitive on unfamiliar tracks.
Then you must have a little bit more tracks, I think, in the country. Yeah? That the riders learn different underground, that the riders learn different jumps, different tracks. Yeah? That is what they have when I go in other countries, in other places. Then they find a track what they have not drive before, have to practice. Yeah? And that is what you must learn too, to come on a place, have another track, and to learn to have the feeling very fast for the track. Yeah? That is for the future what must coming. Yeah?
Motocross was introduced in Uganda in the 1960s. By 2012, Uganda Motocross had over 60 riders aged between 5 years and 40 years old.
And that's the end of Sports News Africa for today. Join us again tomorrow when we'll bring you all the latest from Africa and around the world. Bye for now.